We're back out here once again, and today we're talking all about budget stick baits. They're cheap, but how well do they really work? And can any of them knock off the king? Stick around, you don't want to miss this one. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get on the boat because, oh, that's a fish. That's definitely a fish, because I was sitting still and he came up and got it. Stay down. That's not a bad one either, unless the current got me. Nope, that's a good fish. Wow, he came up and got it while I had it still. Come here, you. And here is this video's featured comment. Congratulations! If you would like to have a chance to have your comment featured in an upcoming video, all you've got to do is leave a comment. And now, on with the video. Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing, and let's face it, times are really hard. A lot of anglers have their finances stretched very thin right now, and despite what a prominent YouTube angler has told you, well, the economy's in the garbage, and we all know that. But that means that a lot of anglers just don't have the extra money to buy the things they need to go fishing, let alone the things that they want. But fortunately, there are some budget options that we can turn to. And when I say budget, I mean rock bottom prices. These are the baits that are in those boxes on the bottom shelf, the ones that have been all rifled through in a big mess, but there is some gold in those boxes if you're willing to chance it. A lot of anglers do, and they have great success. So those are the baits that we're going to be focusing on right now. Spoiler alert, Bass Pro Stickos are not going to be on this list. And I know a lot of guys swear by them and they're a good worm, but they are $6 a bag at the cheapest. You get 16 worms in that bag. I understand that. I'm not saying it's not a good deal, but if I walk into Walmart with $5 in my pocket, I can get several packs of these worms I'm talking about. I'm not getting a bag of Stickos at Bass Pro for that amount. In fact, I'm probably not getting anything at Bass Pro for that amount. And I'm fishing this based on how I do it. That's how I'm rating these worms, based on how I fish. Texas rig with braid, 30-pound braid, 10 to 12 pound fluorocarbon leader, based, straight up on a regular Texas rig, 3/0, 4/0 EWG with a 1/4 ounce or thereabouts bullet weight, because I fish a lot of grass. And another way that I do it a lot is, well, with a wacky rig or a NACO rig or a Waco rig. Again, 10-pound braid to an 8-pound monofilament or cold poly leader. That's how I fish. That's how a lot of guys fish. I understand that there are so many different ways you can fish a stick bait. You can put them on a Ned rig. You can put them on a shaky head. You can put them on a drop shot, But for the most part, these are common ways that a lot of guys are going to do, and they're going to be predominantly using stick baits for these presentations. So that's kind of where I wanted to stick with that. Now, first up, we got these guys, Big Bites Baits. And we all know that they make a really good brand. It's not just worms. They have various other types of baits that work well. They're a common, well-known bait. And you're saying, but Lowbrow, Big Bites Baits, they're not a budget brand. But these are. These I can find at Academy. They're in that box on the bottom shelf, like a lot of these are, and they're $1.99. Now, granted, there's only 5 worms in there, but they're $1.99. So I can get 2 bags for $4 plus tax and have 10 worms, which still is going to be cheaper than a lot of other quote-unquote name brands or more popular brands. So this is a great bait to start with. Now, color selection is not going to be great. I've got this brown here, this kind of dried blood brown, which is really great. You'll get your standard green pumpkin, and you'll probably get something like a loud chartreuse one, and, something like a black blue flake or a June bug, but you're not going to have 10,000 different colors. That's fine. I don't need to have 10,000 different colors. This is still a really great bait. But the problem that I have with these is that a lot of times they need help. Like, I have to put the tail spinner worm on it when I'm fishing it like a Texas rig, just to get a little bit more attraction. Now, as far as the product of the bait goes, the worm is not super soft. It's not as soft as like a Yamamoto Senko or a Guggenbait lunker log, but it's not super stiff either. Now, there's some of that anise or licorice scent in there, but there's not a lot of salt. So again, whenever I'm fishing these, especially on something like a weightless wacky rig, I find that they do need some help on the fall. They do need a little bit of help. And if you give them a little bit of help, a little bit of, maybe a little bit of a weight on a wacky rig or that tail spinner worm to give it a little bit more flash in the water, these will catch bass just fine. But because of those things, I can only rate them a C. Good bait, worth a try, but to me, they're only a C. Now, next up, we're looking at Academy store brand, H2O Express. A lot of guys know that H2O Express makes great hard baits, jerk baits, crankbaits, amazing baits, and even their terminal tackle, their hooks and weights are great. A lot of people don't know they make soft plastics as well. And this, while it wasn't on that box, it wasn't in the box at the bottom of the shelf, it was on a hook on the rack. This was still only $2.99 for a bag of 10. So it still comfortably fits into the range of budget worms that we're talking about. There is a little bit more color variation in these than there is to the others. I found that they had 10 or 12 colors in my local Academy just on the rack. Common colors like this guy here, Junebug, and then you had your various green pumpkin, watermelon red, you had some whites, you had some chartreuse tip tail, stuff like that. But this guy right here, look at all that salt. There is just a ton of salt in this thing, and there's a good bit of that anise or licorice scent. They have a good bit of durability, but not as good as some of the others here. They tend to be just a bit softer. And if you like a softer worm, then this is going to be right up your alley. But there is one detrimental thing about these. I haven't caught a single fish with these. And I don't know what it is about it. I don't know if it's maybe just my fishery. I'm using them in the same exact ways that I use every other type of stick bait. I've been using these for several weeks now. I've got 3 or 4 bags of these, different colors. I haven't caught any fish with it. So the best that I can give these is a C. But I'm leaning more towards a D with these. And I don't hate H2O Express. I have many of their baits, and they are fine baits. I've caught a lot of fish with them, especially their jerk baits. But this, I've got to give it a D at best, simply because I haven't caught any fish with this. If I start catching fish with this, and if I start catching more fish with this, then, those two things, price and the amount of fish that I catch, those are going to be your ultimate deciding factors. So if I start catching fish with that, obviously I'm going to have to give it a better score. Now, next up, one of the most common cheap baits you see me use on this channel, and that's cream. I like cream baits. Say what you want about how cheap they are. This bag of 5 plastic stick baits was $1.28 at Walmart. So for $5, I can get 3 of these, which will give me 15 worms, which will actually be less than a bag of Stickos for just about the same amount of worms. Now, these are pretty bargain basement. They don't have a lot of salt. They don't really have any scent to speak of. They smell pretty much like plastic, but they work. They're very durable. I can catch more than 1 fish on that. And if you're fishing a clear water fishery, if you're fishing a water, some place that's got like 5, 6, 7 feet of visibility, where you're going to be keying in on those bass with sight, when you're going to be using a visual presentation, then this has got to be your bait, especially for the price of it. Especially for the price, this has got to be your bait. Now, again, not going to be a varied color selection. There's going to be 2, maybe 3 different types of colors. The black blue flake, you're going to have maybe a white, maybe a green pumpkin, maybe a black, but there's not going to be a whole wide array for that price point. But the ones that they do have catch tons of fish. So price point is low, and they catch a lot of fish. So everything else is pretty much secondary. At the very least, these have to get a B. These have to be a B simply because of how well they catch fish and the price point. But are they the best? Are they going to knock off the king? Well, let's see. Let's talk about that. Now, finally, I got to talk about the king, right? The one that everybody's waiting for, yum dingers. The worm that's probably the most popular stick bait in all of bass fishing, even more so than the Senko. Everybody loves the yum dinger, and I am no exception. I probably have, 50 bags of these, which is probably excessive, but I probably have 50 or more bags just in one tub and various other places of just yum dinger worms. This one here's a watermelon red. you can see it's actually a little bit softer. It's actually got a little bit more of a lower hang than some of the other baits that we've been talking about. Things like the cream or the big bites, which tend to be just a little bit stiffer. And, you know, the price point's going to be there. Now, you can get them off the shelf, and they're $2.99 off the shelf, which is a great price. But if you turn around and look at that box on the floor, below all those racks of all the other types of baits, you'll see a box next to the cream box of cheap Yum Dingers. Now, they're about $2.25, so they're not as cheap as the cream, but you're going to find just some crazy colors in there. Now, what I've been told is that box is bad mixes, bad different types of worms, or bad different types of plastics in general that got discarded, that they didn't want to sell. And a lot of times it's not going to have a sticker that says worm on it. Sometimes they'll say tubes, or they'll say mixed grubs or whatever, but you can tell by looking at it what it is. As a matter of fact, you know, it's kind of funny because in that box at Walmart is where I first discovered the spine crawl. I didn't even know what it was named, but they had some kind of blue with a little bit of black swirl. The color was, I guess it was unique to it because it was not a standard color, which is why it was in that box. But that's where I found the Yum spine crawl, and I've been hooked on those ever since. Yum Dinger, you know it's got to get an A. You know it has to be an A, despite what everything else, you know, what other type of baits, these just work. And it doesn't matter if you're a pro angler. It doesn't matter if you're just getting started out. There's a reason why everybody likes a Yum Dinger. They work so well. The color variations are there. You can find just about any color, dial it down to, you know, I've got watermelon red. You can do green pumpkin. You can do the green pumpkin candy or the green pumpkin watermelon flake or whatever. You can do all those crazy combinations. And then they've got the red shed, and they've got the white, and they've got chartreuse. The color variations are there. The price point is there. The durability is there because you can catch more than one fish on them. And, of course, they do catch piles of fish. So if there's a better budget bait than a Yum Dinger, I haven't seen it. So there you have it. Some of my favorite rock bottom budget worms. If you have one, put it in the comments below that I didn't cover. A lot of these work really, really well. And I'm all about saving the money. Give these a try if you haven't. I'm sure you're really going to like how well they work. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.